So how did somebody born in India,
Right.
who emigrated to the States, come to specialize in Tuscan Mediterranean style of architecture?
Well, see, I don't believe that that first of all, I don't believe that for example, a pizza in Italian pizza came from Italy, but still the best pizza you can get in New York, made by somebody who is from Puerto Rico. So I don't think it matters. You know, I think once you understand the language of any design, it's kind of decoding it. You know, if I understand Italian architecture and I studied it and I understand the language and I understand what is consistent and what are these people trying to do here, once I get it, I can recreate it. So I don't need to be an Italian to create an Italian architecture. So yes, I was born in Kashmir and I studied in Chandigarh, which is in north of India. I studied architecture in architecture school that was by a French architect, Le Corbusier. He actually planned the entire city and designed the school and started the school over there. And so entire thing, all they taught us was concrete and modern architecture. So then, you know, I came over here to America. I studied urban design over here, and then I worked in interior design firm. So I did interior design of Chrysler Building. I redid Chrysler Building for Saatchi & Saatchi World Headquarters. So that was completely Art Deco. So I had to understand Art Deco language and everything else. But I was always fascinated by Italian architecture because Italian architecture is really the birthplace of modern architecture. They really were way ahead of anybody else. Well, people were still living in medieval towns and they were building these mud houses and brick houses that had absolutely no form to it, no shape to it. Italians were, they understood architecture and they created, modern architecture is basically started from Italian architecture. So I was always fascinated by Italian architecture. Even when I was studying, I went back to Italy many times to understand the proportions, the height versus the width, and the columns, and the enclosure that it creates, the spaces that the architecture creates. So I studied it, I became good at it, and I became known as the guy who can design Italian homes. So.
What speaks to you specifically about that kind of architecture that you find evocative enough that you wanted to learn the context of it and use it for your profession? What is it about it?
I think it's definitely the warmth in that architecture. Maybe it's the yellow color, Naples yellow color. Maybe it is the proportions. It's not overwhelming. It is, if you see the doors and the windows and everything, they're not huge, they're not mega, it's not palatial. I'm talking about authentic, like Florentine architecture. And it's very cozy, very warm. It's very, because it's old, it has character. And I like walls that are a little tilted, that are not straight. You know, I got attracted. I feel good. You know, you just go someplace, you feel good. You don't know why you feel good. So, as a matter of fact, when I was doing my master's in urban design, this was the thesis subject for me: is why does a space have an impact on your psyche, for example, on your psychology, on your thinking? And I found out that it does. Most people don't know this. Architecture has a major role to play in how you feel. You could go into a building and feel terrible, and you don't know, you say, oh, I'm having a bad day. And it's because the energy that's created in that space by the designer, maybe voluntary or involuntary, maybe he doesn't know or she doesn't know what he's doing, makes you feel uncomfortable. So all those things, you know, when I went to particularly Florence, all the architecture in Florence and the whole ambience in Florence, it was beautiful and got me.
Isn't there a conflict between creating a livable, intimate space that people feel comfortable in when you're dealing with very high-end, quite large homes? And how do you resolve that conflict?
What I normally do is when I would do a home, some architects would go and ask their clients, give me a list of requirements, what do you want? I don't ask them list of requirements. I ask them to visualize their house. And I ask them to sit on a computer and visualize and explain in words, what do you see when you walk in and this and that and everything. And then also I see their lifestyle, what kind of lifestyle they have. So as an architect, I don't necessarily impose my ideas on the people, particularly homes. Home is a very personal thing. If I'm designing your home and you say, you know what, I want 30 feet ceilings in all the rooms. I will say, fine, you want 30 feet ceiling, then your rooms cannot be 10 feet by 12 feet because they will look like a tunnel and then I'll have to make rooms 40 feet by 40 feet. And if you're okay with that, so what I'm trying to tell you is you order, it's like composing music. Architecture is like an art. I always say that we're artists who are commissioned to create art. We're not artists who go in our garage and studio, create art, and then put it on an art gallery and see if somebody will buy it. We don't do that. We're commissioned. So when you're commissioned, you're like a chef. You go to a restaurant, you order a meal. The guy asks, how do you want your steak? You want well done, rare, medium? So you say, I want medium. So he makes you the best medium steak. So that's the way I look at myself. So when you order, so I don't see any conflict. So if somebody says, I want a very intimate home. I want a home where I live with my wife, my kids, and we have this the home should bring us together. Then my space planning of the home will bring them together. And the design and the proportions will be like that. If somebody says, I want a home, I'm never there, man. I just fly all over the world. My wife is working in China. My kids are grown up. I just need a place to sleep, but I throw big parties. I want people to come in and get totally intimidated by my house. Then I'll give him a whole different kind of a house. So it doesn't really matter what you order. You order, I provide that.
It's like the Mediterranean. You go to Tuscany, you go to Italy. There's a relationship between the structures and the interior space and the exterior space. Mixed use is very big there, and that's been one of the failures of American architecture, as we're recognizing now.
Correct.
That all this compartmentalization does not work.
Absolutely.
Are they making the same mistake in Dubai, or are they making the interior space of a building, a home, have a relationship to the neighborhood around it?
Yeah. No, I don't think they're making the same mistakes in Dubai. I think Dubai, what they're doing master planned communities. And a lot of these communities are mixed use developments. They have shopping, residential, office, everything put together in its right proportion. One of the biggest, I always say the biggest problem with American cities is the zoning. And the zoning is done by an engineer who has no creativity, zero creativity. So all he does is he takes this block of plots, he calls them single-family homes, ground plus 1 story allowed. Then he takes another block, he goes offices, ground plus 20 stories allowed. But there is no feeling into it. Nobody ever sat down and designed this whole thing and how am I going to feel? It's done by engineers and mathematicians. It's never done by an artist. And, but they're not doing like that in Dubai. In Dubai, they have architects, master planners, master designers. They sit down and they come up with a community, a full community, like a mixed-use community.